In today's video, we're going to look at the striker and forward options at Manchester United. With so many to choose from, we're going to be focused on the four names that have been mostly mentioned so far in the summer window. Looking into the stats and some of the other details, we're going to compare them to Hojlund and work out whether they're going to be a good partner alongside him or whether they're going to be an alternative to replace him at certain points of the season or coming off the bench. One of the other things we're going to be looking at is the price point and the sort of style of play they do to see whether they can complement and whether they're going to be a first team regular or whether they are going to be that sort of sub and backup player. So who are these four players then? Max Beer at Hoffenheim, Jonathan David of Lille, Ivan Toney from Brentford, and of course Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna. So first off, let's quickly look at some of the stats and match that to anything we've heard and seen of these players before. Here on the Spiders, courtesy of Opta and XValue AI, we can see already that Beer and David are much more closely aligned, and whilst the more experienced Toney is definitely the more complete of the four, Zirkzee is actually closer to his profile at first glance than he is of the other two. Sat alongside Hojlund's statistics, and this becomes even clearer. Whilst Toney and Hojlund are more likely to be the more complete forwards all around, Rasmus shares more similarities in his performance characteristics with both Beer and David. Okay, so let's have a look in more detail and consider what Manchester United's current tactical setup requires in terms of a forward who could contribute towards the finishing and the chance creation as well as ball progression. We can see straight away that Jonathan David stands out. 19 goals he got last season and a non-penalty expected goal ratio of 0.55. Beer, also impressive, 16 goals last season and an XG ratio of 1.32. Meanwhile, Hojlund and Joshua Zirkzee both had respectable goal tallies in their respective leagues, and they were both above average in terms of shot to goal efficiency. Ivan Toney, however, doesn't have the strongest of XG, may suggest he's not as clinical as perhaps he comes across. This is flipped when it comes to chance creation, with Ivan Toney excelling in passing into those penalty areas and very high percentiles. He also has strong presence in crossing, which could become much more valuable than something we do lack. Joshua Zirkzee also has a good balance between assists and successful dribbling and passes into that final third, indicating his ability to create opportunities for all his teammates. In terms of ball progression, Toney again has some exceptional stats. Despite a low pass accuracy percentile, he actually has great figures when it comes to progressive passes and passes into that final third. Joshua Zirkzee also has strong ball progression metrics with high percentiles in progressive passes and carries. Individually, Beyer has really good efficiency when it comes to his shots to goal ratio, similar to Hojlund in that effect, and there's a high number of touches in that opposition's box. His ball progression is quite impressive, particularly with carries, and he's also a very confident chance creator with a high number of crosses and successful dribbles. David also has solid ball progression metrics with a good number of progressive passes and carries. While he's not as efficient, he's certainly more clinical in terms of scoring physical goals per 90 minutes. Again, he prefers shooting within that penalty sort of box. Toney, well, he's certainly strongest in the air with outstanding contributions with progressive passes into the penalty box and his chance creation. He's extremely comfortable with the long-range efforts, which lowers his overall shot efficiency, but he can certainly strike with power. Zirkzee, he certainly has more balanced profile, very good number of goals and assists for Bologna, and in the air he's also strong, although not quite as strong and efficient as Toney. He's very effective though in chance creation, with the highest successful dribbling rate among this group, but also last season in Serie A. He's also very good with ball progression and particularly the progressive passes. One of his weaknesses though is getting those goals himself and finding himself in the right positions in the box. He's also, when he does shoot from outside the box, he doesn't hit it with much power and tends to hit it low. Whilst Hojlund has proven to be a very proficient finisher, outscoring his XG at Manchester United, his aerial duel capability is average, with low involvement in ball progression and carries, which are his weakness, i.e. particularly when balls are passed to feet. His passes and dribble contributions are low, but successful more often than not when he makes them. From this, I'm going to suggest that actually Toney and Zirkzee have been recruited for a completely different role. A deeper chance creator that's going to be coming and linking up with the players behind and on that front line. Both have different sorts of skills that they're going to bring and unlock. There's no doubt Toney's sort of passing vision, in and around the box and getting that ball in. Zirkzee, that dribbling prowess. Both of them are surely going to make a big difference and a great addition to what was a toothless attack for United in the final third last year. Both have the weaknesses when it comes to shot conversion, certainly not as good as the other guys we've spoken about today, and also those two are going to also cost more in terms of the wage and the actual upfront fee, which also to me points that this is two different roles that we're looking for here. And one is that we're going to be changing that number 10 into a more traditional 10 that's deeper and sits behind the 9 and that forward, not as an advanced midfielder as we've been using in more recent years. Interest as well in both David and Beer also point towards that for me. In terms of their finishing and the way they look in that final third, they're much more of a roaming goal scorers, much more dynamic forwards up front, and not really deeper lying, more creative and link-up play. So this all points and suggests to me that they're targeting two different types of player for two different roles. Whilst comfortable across much of the final third, there's no doubt at all, just like Hojlund, these two are much more dangerous in that box and a lot more clinical as a result. So there we have it, guys. I believe looking for a Hojlund alternative in the shape of David or Beer that can come off the bench and cover him, or alternatively in certain matches they can provide the option instead. Additionally, I believe we're looking for a second forward, a false 9, a number 10 in the old sort of traditional way, that can turn around to support our forward and really help connect the central areas and that final third. This will also mean we don't have to rely on, say, using Bruno Fernandes or Scott McTominay on that front line, which isn't really a front line, it's a second extension of a midfield line. Can you see any of these players working for us? And if you do, which one would you think is most likely going to improve our game at Old Trafford? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.